patient. I keep going, but I think all of that encompasses a first-time meeting because I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't know you, I don't know your story, and if just a little bit of kindness from a stranger can show you that it's okay, then I always treat everyone the same. You know, first impressions mean a lot, and so I like to carry myself as a representative. My grandmother used to always say, put your room on display. So I always like to put it on display, and that way people can say, okay, maybe I can give her a chance. It's kind of selfish.
So, would you say you're an open book?
I'm not an open book at all. I'm not an open book. However, you know how, like, when it comes to, I'm dating myself, the library, how they have sections and genres, and if you're looking for a certain book, you can go find it. So I would say I'm not just sitting out on the table for people to read, but if they go and look for it and they crack it open, then they can get everything they need from that book.
And I like that because we are layered. We're not one dimension.
I used to think that I was too much all the time, so I was always closed off and reserved. But then, you know, there's a time and a place for everything. So I don't really believe in too much, but I do know how to edit it, you know, and how to tailor it for the moment that you're in. And I like to say other people's opinions are none of my business, especially if they're not sharing them with me. So, you know, if they're like, hey, Quinn, you made me feel this way. Absolutely. You know, let's talk about it. But if they're telling somebody else, hey, Quinn made me feel this way, none of my business. You know, or I think this about Quinn, well, none of my business. So, you know, you just have to know.
I like that perspective. Yes, I like the discernment. I like that word. And you know what, going back a little bit about the book. So open book, I love that, like a library. There's sections of people, you know. You can't just, okay, which one do I want to pick today? And then, because I feel like we have a book of content. That's when you're saying, that's when you first meet somebody, right? Okay, and then it's like, okay, let me see, I want to keep reading. Then you go to the next page and the next page, you know. So I like that analogy. What are you most proud of about yourself?
I'm most proud of my ability to be comfortable being who I am, 100% authenticity, in spite of what everyone else has going on. And I'm proud of it because I was not always like that. You know, it's kind of like going back to the table of contents. There are chapters, you know, like you guys are catching me in my now, but going back, there are chapters where it's like you wouldn't even recognize me. Like, that's not the person that I know, because it was all about conforming, all about fitting in, all about being accepted, all about wanting everyone to like you. And then I realized I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Some people like soda, some people only drink water, some people like juice, and that's okay. I had to be okay with that within myself. And so I'm really proud that I could, you know, walk to the beat of my own drum and just be comfortable in it without a second thought of who's going to disapprove, who's not going to like it, who's going to have something nasty to say, because, okay.
That's right. And
I used to have imposter syndrome. So I used to be whatever everyone else wanted in that moment. So like, if it was Coca-Cola, I was Coca-Cola. And I wasn't just Coca-Cola. I was the big 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, because just being a can wasn't enough. Wow. You know, I had to let everyone know. And that's usually how it is when someone doesn't know themselves, then they go overboard. And then they just do a lot because they want you to be like, see, I'm Coke too, you know. And so I think I know for a fact I had to sit and ask myself, who am I? Who do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave? When people do speak about me behind my back, what is it that I want them to say? And I never wanted, let's say you have 5 people who've had interactions with me, I never wanted them to say 5 different things. Because then at the end of the day, then it's not authentic. So they're like, okay, well, who is she?
Right.
And it just is like, well, maybe she doesn't know. And you know, we're human, we're valuable. People will treat you certain ways, you know, based off of the opinions that they form. And so if you're going to treat me based off of the opinion you formed about me, know who I am then.
Yeah.
Know who you're treating like that.
Right.
You know?
Like if, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, if you're saying that, make sure you actually getting to know the person. You know what I'm saying? Like, bring me the facts.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
One of my favorite sayings is facts over feelings.
Oh.
I agree with feelings. Don't get it wrong. Like, to remain in our humanity, we have to feel. You know, some of us feel deeply than others, but you know, like it's just a different situation. For the sake of work, if you don't like me, that's fine. That's how you feel.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, we got a job to do. This is the task that we got to do. And if I'm the one giving you that task, that's the fact of the matter. That task has to be done for you to collect the paycheck.
Right.
So take how you feel about me home,
Yeah.
you know, or to the break room,
Right.
and let's get this work done. That's why I say I can work with anybody, you know, in the people business.
Right.
Because once I get to know who I'm working with, then it's like, okay, the fact of the matter is, we gotta go.
And thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Okay. What's something people might misunderstand about you?
My directness, you know, because I used to be very passive, and then I became passive aggressive, and that can be misinterpreted, you know, or I would insinuate and then get upset when the message wasn't heard clear, not realizing I wasn't delivering a clear message. And so in delivering clearer messages to the audience, I just want them to know that this is truly me. You know, this is where it's coming from. I'm going to keep it 100 with you.
Yeah.
You know, I don't go out of my way to be rude, but if I don't want something, I'm going to say, no, thank you. Are you sure? Absolutely. And then, you know, if someone's pushy, I'm going to tell you, you're being pushy, right? And their feelings might get hurt, but that's because they're used to people saying, oh, thank you. Oh, yes.
The nice ones.
Yes, you know? And it's like, then all of a sudden they're upset with you because you didn't accept what they've been trying to give you, when in reality it's okay for me to say no.
Yeah,
No
it's
means
true.
no.
That's true.
No is a complete sentence.
Oh my God, that's true.
And what's the worst that no can do? You know, except hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But if the fact is,
That's true.
I don't want it, and my truth is a no,
Then that is what it is. Yeah. No is actually a word.
complete sentence. No, period. Full stop. No is a complete
Oh my
sentence.
goodness, I love it. I absolutely love it. Where did you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
I grew up between two states, Louisiana and Texas. I was born in Louisiana. I started my first 3 years there. Then we moved to Texas. Then we moved back to Louisiana, then back to Texas. And so when I think about, like, for something simple as pre-K through 12th grade, I want to say I had maybe 16 schools. And when people hear that, they're like, oh, you're from military family? Absolutely not. My parents were teenagers. So growing up in a household full of teenagers, mind you, on my mom's side, everyone started their family young. My grandmother had my mom going on, starting 13, going on 14. Then immediately had my aunt, 14 going on 15. Like, their birthdays are actually next week. So my aunt is born August 18th. My mom's August 19th. So for one day, they're the same age. My mom's older. So for one day, they're the same age.
That's
and my
cool.
mom had me 15 going into 16. My dad was 19, but still, he was still a kid. And you know,
Yeah.
when they mature, that's science. It's a fact.
Yeah, science.
Science.
Yes, look it up.
Men mature a little later
Yeah.
than women. So growing up was like growing up in a house of friends. You know, I had very few boundaries. I had very few oversight. Luckily, I just chose. Like, I didn't realize at a young age I was choosing to do right. Like, I was just scared, honestly. Like, I wouldn't break a rule, not because I would get in trouble, just because I'm like, oh my God, there's a rule, you have to follow it. You know, and it was a lot of self-oversight. Like, I want to say, and my mom will adhere to this, she'll agree, you know, I say all the time, like, I've been raising myself since I was 6 years old. And so I had to mature at a very early age, kind of mature at a young age. And I caught myself like Benjamin Button, because a lot of stuff that I did not do as a child, you know, like I'm a 42-year-old mermaid.
Yeah,
you know, and I play dress up,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I have fairy wings, and you know, I wear crowns
Yeah,
and
yeah.
ears and glitter. Everything's glitter,
Yeah.
you know. And I don't think whimsical has an age limit. I think
I like that.
anybody could be whimsical.
I like that.
You know, anybody like things.
Yes.
Anybody can subscribe to it.
Come on.
But for me, it goes back to my childhood because I was whimsical as a child, but I wasn't allowed to express that. Not even in a bad way that my parents prevented it. It's just we didn't have the means. You know, there was no. I remember playing Little Mermaid, putting a pillowcase on my head and pretending I had all the long hair. And I would put a pillowcase on my legs and, you know, dive around because I didn't have costumes. You know, like when little girls would put on their Disney princess dresses. I didn't have that, but I didn't know I didn't have that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like something that I was missing out. But now that I got my big girl money, then it's like, here, take all my money because I want a real mermaid tail. I want a real princess dress.
I love that. That's beautiful.
But I wouldn't trade it. Like, you know, like people have hardships and, you know, I have my story where I can like, oh, life was hard at this point. But my parents did what they could. They did what they knew. And
Exactly.
I have grace for them because when I think about who I was at 15, who I was at 19, who I was at 13, 14, raising kids, starting a family, like we grew up together. My mom would tell people that, and maybe we shouldn't have grown up together, but like, how do you not when you're still learning and growing? And I pride myself, even in my age, to grow every day. I'm not the same person I was last week.
Exactly.
The person you're talking to right now is not going to be the same person a month from now. So I can only imagine what trying to raise a new human was as a teenager. And so I have a lot of compassion and understanding, and I take every part of how I grew up as an experience, a learning experience.
Yes.
You grow when you learn.